All right. Let's go ahead and get things started, y'all. Let me go ahead, make sure that my volume is set over here before I get started. 1 2 1 2. Yep, we're all good to go. Let me make sure that this is set first. Alright, let's go ahead and get started, guys.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, guys, and thank you for checking out another one of my weekly Forex and crypto analysis. I do appreciate it. And before we go ahead and get started, if you are watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and drop a like. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow, helps us be able to, get more people to watch our analysis and to look at our take in the market. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, what I always do in the market every week is I go and I check out, okay, what type of high impact news there is, right? High impact news as in there is different levels of expected impact, so when we have graves folders here on Forex Factory, different websites show different things, but it's all basically the same. It'll show you non-economic news, low impact expected news, medium impact expected news, and high impact expected news. I only look for the high impact personally because that's what I know is going to give the market the majority of the move. Other than that, I'm not necessarily a fundamental trader. I used to be before in the past, and it was better for me to just focus on the charts rather than to use a lot of what happens fundamentally versus what happens on the chart. So that's just my personal preference. I know everybody trades differently. So now, Monday we have Euro News, German Flash Manufacturing PMI, and then we have German Flash Services. At the same time, 2:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And then 6:30 p.m. we have Australian dollar news with the CPI and the trimmed mean CPI. So that's going to be what we're going to be watching for on Monday with the Euro and Australian dollar. Tuesday, there's no high impact news. Wednesday, we have 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, Canadian dollar with monetary policy statements and rate statements. And then overnight rate. So we're going to be looking at that. And then 10 a.m. we have the BOC press conference. 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have FOMC statement and federal funds rate. This is what you definitely want to watch for with the US dollar this week. This is FOMC is one of the news that I always, I'm always careful for. This is, I kind of look at this as a bigger high impact news than what's the news event that happens I don't know why it's escaping me. Oh, NFP, non-farm payroll. That's something that I'm watching for in particular. 1 p.m. Central Standard Time and 1:30 p.m. And the way how the US dollar is setting up, there might be, we'll be looking at it technically and see some interesting takes on that. CPI on NZD news, so that's going to be at 3:45 Central Standard Time. Thursday, 7:30 a.m. we have advanced GDP, and 7:30 a.m. USD we have core price index. So this is definitely going to be interesting to see in the market. We have a good amount of news going on. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. Take a look at the DXY, right? So last week I was saying, hey, I loved the bearish move that the DXY did make. The bearish move, it came down. It left a very long wick to the downside. Oh, nice to see you here. Nice to see you here, Diamond. But like I was saying, so what I was seeing, I love the weekly, the way how it closed, very bearish. However, the wick to the downside is what I wasn't necessarily, feeling. I was like, I could do without the wick, but I was expecting, hey, at this point, we're probably going to be seeing a rejection down here and for price to push up to the upside. And that definitely is what happened. There wasn't a bullish engulfing candle right next to this, so I am pretty cool. I'm pretty okay, I can see the bearish play possibly happening. How I got this zone over here in the first place was I took my Fibonacci's that I usually use from the highs to the lows. And give me a second, let me go ahead and change this template. And so I took it from the high of 96.474 to the low of 94.637, and I said, hey, what I want to see is price reject off of this zone, preferably up to where my alert is at 95.933, and then I want to see it continue to the downside, right? The price action that we were seeing throughout the week, not throughout last week, but the week prior, price did come up here pretty fast. So I was saying, I'm not necessarily ready to try to sell this. Not only that, price didn't even come up to hit my alert at 95.933. Let me make my screen large screen, sorry. So me seeing that price didn't come up all the way to 95.941, it's making me not want to necessarily get into the trade, even though, yes, if I go into the weekly time frame, there is this downward trend line that I drew. It's not even that correct. It's not correctly drawn. If I'm really, there it is. You know, it was just a roughly drawn thing because I don't necessarily use trend lines. I just use them as for visual purposes. It's easier for other people's eyes. And it's also, you know, a good guide to see as well. But overall, I still want to see 95.933, and the way how the price moved to the upside, where we have, you know, over here. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the price action. GU and gold, absolutely. And oh my goodness, I forgot to give me a second, guys. Sorry about that. I meant to turn that volume down before I started, but it's all right. All right, I'll take a look at GU and gold. Definitely, it's on my watch list. So 95.941. That's what I'm really watching for on the DXY. It could very well push down low from where it could definitely push the downside off of rejecting the 61.8 Fibonacci level at 95.772, but I'd rather prefer it go a little higher, personally speaking. And you know, if I'm being honest, we could very well see a retracement back up to 96.255 or 96.429, realistically speaking. So getting that push to the upside at 95.923 and price even going up to 96.046 wouldn't be a bad idea, honestly speaking, for me. So that's a whole bunch of reasons why I want to see price go up there. And you know, if the trend line so happens to get touched over here and then reject off of there, hey, that's just further confluence, right? That's how I look at it. Although, again, I'm not necessarily a trend line user. I just like using it for visual purposes because it does help. And I do know that realistically speaking, there are times where the trend lines do be getting respected and price drops off of it. So it's added confluence. You know, I can't deny that. So we'll see what goes on with. It's crazy because on the lower time frames, that's where the trend lines is at, but then on the higher time frames, oh no, it looks pretty accurate to me. Never mind. So, but yeah, we'll see what goes on with the DXY. I'm still waiting for my alert to get hit. I'm not gonna necessarily deviate from that, especially when I'm seeing the 4-hour time frame. We have price over the 50 EMA. Oh, and I forgot. This is what I wanted to show you guys. Sorry. We have it looks like a morning star pattern to me. Like we had a very large bearish engulfing candle on the daily. Then price printed out this candle. Looks like a hammer to me more than a bearish type of candle. Then we had a bullish engulfing candle right after it with a long wick to the downside that kind of looks to me like a tweezer bottom. And so with price pushing to the upside like that and then giving 3 bearish candles, bullish candles, which is, you know, 3 white soldiers, it's not necessarily a good look for me to try to buy this sell this at this point in time. I'd rather just see what price is going to do up in the zone, possibly even a little higher before I start to make my decision on, okay, yes, I'm going to go ahead and sell this. So that's on the DXY. Basically, on the lower time frame, like right here, I mean, off of just a small play right here, I would expect the DXY to continue going bullish up into the 38.2 or even the negative 61.8 extension. That's kind of what I'm seeing right now on the DXY. It definitely can come up to 95.758 and show rejections off of there, but that's not what I'm currently seeing. And again, I still do want price to come up to 95.933. So let's see what goes on here. Price did make a double top and drop from here, so the possibility of price coming up to 95.760 and then falling does exist. However, that's not really what I'm focused on right now, right? So we'll see what goes on with the DXY rest of the day or two. Let me go on over here to arbitrage on the weekly time frame. We have DXY weekly time frame still extremely bullish, so doesn't necessarily mean like it doesn't necessarily look good on a higher time frame type of play to look for any type of sells. Daily time frame, we had gone to sell the first time, and I was like, hey, at this point, what I would rather see the DXY do is come up to the RSI line, and the RSI line is over here at 95.956 basically, which if you look towards the other chart that I have towards the left, you can see that the RSI kind of like really lines up well with where I'm looking for price to reject off of, right? And I said, and the same thing with to the left, I was saying, however, I do know, let me get rid of this fib. I was saying, however, I do know that this fib price can still come up even all the way up to 96.400, which is the upper danger zone right here. So I'm getting a lot of confluence with what I'm looking at based on technical analysis and based off of the indicator that I use as well, right? Let me not use that candlestick form. So I'm liking the odds of the DXY pushing to the downside still. Level Pro and the Arbitrage Z, they are not showing that price wants to sell. The 4-hour time frames calling for the buys. I would not have gone into this, and it's currently just consolidating at this point in time, and everything looks like it's going bullish. So, like, again, I do believe that price may be continuing to the upside. And the 1-hour time frame, price has been consolidating, so I wouldn't necessarily have been trying to touch this. But if price rejects off of where it's currently at right now, then yeah, we could possibly see the DXY continue to the downside. And if it does that, then again, it is what it is. But again, I don't think that's what's going to happen. So that's for the DXY. Gonna go over Euro USD. So Euro USD, I was saying basically the opposite of what I was looking at for the DXY, right? I always say that, hey, DXY, Euro USD, they're the inverse. And so with the Euro USD, I was saying, hey, what I'm looking at right now is from these lows that price had made, right? That price had made back in November, in November 24th. I wanted to see what price was going to do, making this retracement back down to 1.1300. Now, granted, price still has not touched my 1.1300 level, but it came to that area of interest that I have to get into a buy opportunity, right? So I'm still, and it's just the exact same way how I still want the DXY to go a little bit more bullish. I still want the DXY to go a little bit more, Euro USD to go a little bit more bearish as well, right? So I'm liking what I'm seeing. Yes, the weekly candle, this weekly candle, we can say that it is larger than this one, but they both left large wicks, so it's kind of iffy on the weekly time frame. And the bearish, this is the opposite of what I was saying, right? On the daily time frame for the DXY, on the daily for Euro USD, it looks like we have an evening star pattern, a shooting star candle with a bearish engulfing candle, 3 black crows to the downside, price consolidating. I do believe that price may continue going lower, and if it does come lower, like to 1.12734, that's where I'd be looking for buys on the lower time frame to possibly take both intraday and swing trades. So that's what I'm looking for right now on the DXY. I don't necessarily want to buy it yet. I do see a possible inverse head and shoulders coming to play it here, but I don't know if I don't think I'm going to play that necessarily. And also, of course, wanted to point out that there is this trend line right here that price has been rejecting off of. Yep, I'll be taking a look at GU, and I'll look at NU a little later on. I'll take a look at GU after this. I don't mind doing that because it is a USD pair. So definitely there's this trend line that price is rejecting off of. Right now on the 4-hour time frame, if I zoom in a little bit closer, yes, I do see a potential head and shoulders pattern. Let me get rid of this over here. Where you see you have the left shoulder, price pushed up, the head pushed up again. So price definitely coming back down to the likes of 1.13176 is a possibility for price to go bullish. However, that's not necessarily the pricing that I want to look for a buy, right? I know that, hey, yes, oops. If I go on over to the lower time frames and I see this bullish move that just happened, although it didn't break any structure to the upside, which so now I'm saying, hey, right now on the 1-hour time frame, this is still making lower highs and lower lows, right? I'm saying to myself that yes, although I know that price from this low to this high can retrace back down right into this Fibonacci level where I could take a potential buy opportunity. Yeah, that possibility does exist. And if I'm feeling risky, maybe I'll take it, if depending on what the price action is and depending on how price gets down there in the first place. But overall, I would rather see 1.12734, especially since FOMC is coming up. I feel like there might be a lot of fake outs on the DXY before, if it decides if it's going to go bullish or if it's going to continue its long-term bearish move. Because if we really take a look at weekly time frame on Euro USD, it has been pretty bearish since May of 2021. Overall, though, from the low it's been at in March of 2020, it broke this previous lower high, retraced. It could still, it's in a high probability area where it can buy, right? Overall, from this low to this high, price it did reject off of a very high probability area for it to go bullish. But again, I still hey, if all of this does not play out, where's the next place that I'm going to be looking for? I already have it set up over here at 1.11400, and that's if the DXY does decide to continue going bullish, which I kind of feel like it will, just not yet. So that being said, gonna wait and see what the DXY is gonna do. Gonna wait and see what Euro USD is gonna do. I do like that it broke out of this structure. It's just the way how it came back down. It's a little scary. And right before FOMC is coming, it's trying to show a possible head and shoulders pattern. I feel like it's going to be a trap in the market. But be still watching for it. All right, let's take a look at GBP USD. All right, GBP USD. Go ahead and get rid of this real quick. All right, so weekly time frame. I was saying that I didn't necessarily like the bullish move that we had on the weekly. However, price did reject off of this zone that I was saying, hey, I'm watching for this zone for price to reject off of it, so for me to then be looking for sell opportunities. And on the weekly time frame, it's done just that, and in fact, it's even given a bearish engulfing candle right after. So that's a good sign for me for the GBP pairs to go bearish. But I don't necessarily like it when I have one bias on EU and then I have a different bias on GU. You know, it's kind of iffy for me to trade both of them, but I trade what I usually see. And so with GU going bearish like this, and on the daily time frame, you can really see the reversal right here of the evening star. Evening star pattern. You have a bullish candle, shooting star. This is for sure a shooting star if I've seen one. This is a shooting star, and then bearish engulfing candle with a wick to the upside, showing at least like it looks like it's a tweezer tops, and then following that you have 3 bearish candles. Yeah, like I had mentioned on the analysis, was it on Friday? I think so. On Friday, I was saying that I believe that GU was going to keep falling, and you know, it's done just that. It's been a little choppy on the lower time frames for that push to the downside, and I was saying that, hey, although yes, this is a good zone for price to reject off of to go bearish, because realistically speaking, GBP/USD is making lower highs and lower lows on the daily time frame starting from June 2nd. It's making low. There's a high, low, lower high, lower low, equal highs, equal lows, lower high than that lower high, then made a lower low, lower high, lower low. You get what I'm saying? It's making lower highs and lower lows, and price has not made any type of attempt to break the previous lower high. Now, one may argue that, hey, this is the lower high before price made a lower low, and yeah, that's true. But again, I was saying that I would rather see this lower high get broken before I start to change my mind about a bullish GBP/USD. You know, and that's due to the GBP, not the USD. So prices rejected off of it, came up to the 78.6, came up a little bit higher, but then ended up pushing to the downside and came even lower. So long-term wise, for anybody that may have tried to take that trade, hey, it might be looking good for sure. Right now on GBP/USD, I personally am like, hey, from when price had recently just rejected off of this 4-hour 50 and then made this bullish move, because this is where the bullish move really started, to the high of 1.37497, I was saying, hey, right here is a zone where price could potentially bounce off of before going bullish. You know, on the 4-hour time frame. I don't want to just necessarily take this out of the equation, because again, on the daily time frame, on the 4-hour time frame, one can argue and say that, oh well, price is broken through this structure right here that I drew that line at. Let me actually get that on. One can argue and say that, oh, price is broken through this structure right here, and now it can potentially come back to just reject off of it, or come even lower, as in like 1.13399. That'd probably be the next place where I'd look for any kind of buy opportunities. But I don't want to take away from the fact that price could potentially reject off of this zone to go bullish up here at 1.36741, where it could then, if I'm changing the fib settings, or not the fib settings, but if I'm changing the price action that I'm looking at from bullish to bearish, then yes, up here at 1.36700 or 1.36900 would be an area where I'd be like, all right, yeah, let me look for sell opportunities here, because I like that this zone is still being respected and that price is still making lower highs and lower lows on the higher time frame. So I'm gonna wait and see. I'm gonna wait and see what GPUSD is gonna do over down here at this level. Gonna hide this zone. Don't want to necessarily confuse too much, and we'll see what goes on. But I definitely do like this zone for a possible short-term reversal on the GPUSD for it to make this retracement, because this is ultimately what I would want to see for me to get into a sell. Hold on, let me put this even lower. This is what I would want to see to get into a sell opportunity for myself. So price made that drop, I want the retracement and then a continuation to the downside. That would be fire. And so that's what I'm going to be looking out for this week. Not sure how price would play out to get there, but as price gets there, I would then make my decision based on the smaller time frame price action. Sorry. Let me go on over here to arbitrage, see what Arby has to say. Weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, price has definitely rejected off of that RSI line, and it even dropped with the bearish engulfing candle compared to the candle right next to it, right? So that's a good sign for the bears. Daily time frame, we have price rejecting off of this upper danger zone for the past couple of days before it finally made that drop on Friday. So we're gonna see what happens right here. Again, I would rather prefer a retracement before price dropping ultimately. And on the daily time frame, it does still look like it's bullish, but I'm pretty sure on the 4 hour and the 1 hour, that's a different story. Yep, so 4 hour time frame, price had made this drop. I wanted the retracement back up before it dropped, and then another retracement. I didn't get that said retracement until over here, and I was not paying attention to GPUSD before it made that drop, but it was a very clean drop to say the least. And so it's made the move that I was looking for on GPUSD. Again, unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention enough to capitalize off of it, but now we'll see what happens in this zone between 1.3500 and 1.35500 basically. So that's with GPUSD. Let me go over AUD USD before I go over NZD USD. I'll go over NZD USD real quick. So with Australian AUD USD, I had said, hey, right here, there's this trend line that I see prices making this bullish move off of. I mean, or not trend line, channel that price is making this bullish move off of. But I still see the possibility of price coming down to 0.70854. And with the current price action that I'm seeing, unless price is making a double bottom right here off of this zone, where if I also use a Fibonacci level, it's from the low of 0.71300 basically, I'm just rounding it up, to the high of 0.73150, same thing, I'm rounding it up, then this is a solid zone to, yes, look for a possible buy on AUD USD, right? However, I just don't like the way how price dropped like this. You know, I don't like the way how price dropped like this. I still, like I said, I kind of feel like the US dollar can still go a little bit more bullish. And if that happens, that's going to make GPUSD go bearish. Euro USD and GPUSD, they're not at levels that I want to buy them at yet. So I'm like, hey, potentially either A, prices can still come over here to 0.71500, which looks pretty good to me for a possible swing play. a second. I'm gonna add an alert there, create, or price can still come down over here to 0.70861 from where the swing started at this higher time frame zone. From this higher time frame zone that price has rejected off of previously when it was making that bearish move a couple weeks ago. So that's what I'm really currently looking at on AUD USD. As much as, yes, right here, based off of this previous play, it looks good for a possible buy. Price has has broken off of that trend line, and this daily candle that closed with a looks like a shooting star and a bearish engulfing candle are not necessarily eye-catching to me to get into a possible buy. So, the more safer play would be to look for 0.70873 for the possible buy on AUD USD. But on the week, based off of the weekly time frame, this could just be a bear flag, and it just broke to the downside. That's what it really looks like to me at the end of the day. Weekly time frame, it just looks like a bear flag. Price is flagging up, and now it's going to push to the downside. I really wished it would have flagged up into the supply zone. That would have been fire for me. And hey, let's see what this weekly candle may look like before we can even say that this has been broken. But from the looks of it, it has. So we'll see what goes on with AUD USD. I'm interested and seeing what those levels are going to be like for potential buy opportunities. But again, right here where it's at, it could buy there, but I'm not going to try that. I'm not going to take that risk. I'm not comfortable taking that risk. I would rather get 0.71517 as a potential area to buy, because all I could really see at this point is for price to come over here and take out these equal lows, possibly. And even if price, even this, I'm not even crazy over. I would really rather want 0.70861 more than anything. So yeah, I'm probably gonna take the trade at that level more than anywhere else. If I do take it to begin with, I have to see what the price action looks like. Alright, let me go ahead and take a look over here at arbitrage. Weekly time frame. AUD USD still extremely bearish. I wanted price to come up to the RSI line before trying to look for any type of sell opportunities, which if you kind of look over here to the left as well, that matches up very nicely with where I wanted to see price come and reject off of the supply zone. So that's one thing that I'm like, hey, I still feel that AUD USD can do that. That's why I'm still looking for those buy opportunities. The daily time frame right now, it's still looking good for the buys. The first time that I had bought it, price came to my break-even point, and I took partials there. Price came back, stalked me out. And I'm like, at this point in time, I'm chilling away from AUD USD because it could potentially keep pushing to the downside. And I'm okay with being patient and waiting. Right now, it's currently under the RSI line, and everything is showing it's bearish on the daily. The only sign that we need left is a sell call, but I feel like that might happen in a day or two if price decides to go bearish. 4-hour time frame, price called for the sell. It went up a little bit higher than I would have been comfortable trying to sell, and then ended up pushing to the downside. And it's currently at the lower danger zone. Everything is still bearish. I still feel like this can keep going to the downside as well. So that's with AUD USD. Let me go ahead and take a quick peek at NZD USD. I don't know when's the last time that I had taken a look at that. Oh wow, this thing is bearish. Alright, weekly time frame, let's take a look. Okay, remove drawings. I have not looked at NZD/USD in a minute. All right, so NZD/USD on the weekly time frame. Not big fan of seeing this wick to the upside and then seeing a bearish engulfing candle right after it. So that's the first thing that I take a look at. But however, I do see that price is at a weekly zone. You know, overall, this is a area where price can. I don't want this red. I would rather have this. You know, let's have it orange. All right, so this is definitely a weekly zone that price is rejected off of multiple times in the past. You can see right here is rejected, using that as resistance over here, or used over here at these levels as resistance, used over here as a support, used over here as support, used over here as support, used over here as resistance, all between, you know, I mean, it even dates back over here to 2010. So this is a major zone that we're currently at on NZD/USD, right? Oops, that's not what I meant to do. In fact, there we go. Okay, so when I zoom in on it and I see this bearish price action, I could only do one of two things. I could either A, wait for price to reject off of this zone and go bullish, or B, expect price to continue falling. And based off of this larger swing from where price had rejected down here to the upside, I do know that overall, long-term wise, no matter how long it takes, if it takes months, if it takes years, that eventually price will come back down to 0.60574, or it can just continue going bullish, you know. And so that's way too long of a time zone for what I'm looking at for a trade right now, right? So what I'm gonna do is, if I zoom in, I'm gonna look at where is the last, like from whence the price started going bullish, when price started going bullish and it made a retracement, this small retracement, where did the next bullish move happen? So it started over here at 0.63821 and it stopped up here at 0.74650. That retracement that price has done, look where price is currently at. Right now it's currently at that 71%. And isn't it funny that all these USD pairs are all lining up at swing areas that look like they could potentially go bullish from? Isn't that kind of interesting? So on the higher time frame wise, I'm looking and seeing at this, I'm looking at this zone and seeing what is price going to do. I'm not necessarily going to take a look at 0.660552 because again, that's way that's way away from where price is currently at. And you know, if this doesn't work out, then that would be my next level of where I would look for buy opportunities on NZD/USD long term wise. But you know, going back to looking closer into price, daily time frame does not look good for a buy opportunity right now. You know, this, although yes, price is currently at an area where I would be thrilled to be looking for buys, I'm not digging the price action here. And price on the daily time frame is making lower highs, lower lows. No, wait, high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower high, lower low. You know, this could be a potential lower high. I feel like that if price would bounce over here, then it most likely would probably come into that 0.70650 area before looking for another lower low, possibly. But overall, this is a zone where potential buys are they're striking me. I mean, they're striking. What is that? They're striking. It's striking my interest. But at this point in time, since price is making this double bottom, I kind of want to see price come down to 0.66154 before making a breakout, retest, continuation type of move. That's kind of, at this point, what would be a much safer play for me rather than trying to catch this double bottom. Trying to catch a double bottom, on the other hand, is not necessarily a bad idea. It's just, you run the risk of price stopping you out because there's liquidity down here. This is on the daily time frame. If we go on to the 4-hour time frame, you can see multiple times when price is rejected off of this zone, which then only strikes me more of, oh, there's going to be a potential move to the downside before price even thinks about going bullish. So let's go on to the daily. Overall, I feel like, again, this zone that price is at, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this because I could always just, the coordinates of this zone are already here. Like, this is what I'm looking for a potential reversal on NZD USD will be. But just like how the other USD pairs are, I'm gonna most likely wait until FOMC before I play them, because more times than not, if I try to play them before FOMC, either A, this is actually going to be on my watch list. I don't trade NZD USD, but since I talked about it, I'll be taking a look at it. But it's either A, I try to get into a trade now and it doesn't go my way, which is, I would say, probably the 30 to 40% of the time, or B, I can get in and price goes my way a little bit and I move my stop loss to break even, and then price ends up taking me out before going the way I want to. And the way how I don't like necessarily jumping back into trades after it stops me out, I would probably get upset at myself. So, oh wait, before I continue off of NZD USD, let me go back over here and take a look at what arbitrage is talking about. So, weekly time frame, NZD USD has been bearish. Looks like it's going to continue pushing to the downside. Level Pro is currently right at ground zero. So if price holds here, hey, the ground zero is the only thing that's really giving you that kind of confidence on the weekly time frame. Daily time frame, price has 21 hours left until it closes, but there is a bearish candle that is popping up. Not necessarily the best sign for me to try to get into a buy, and everything Level Pro and ground zero is showing that it's going to keep pushing to the downside. So again, not necessarily a good sign for me to sell or for me to buy. 4-hour time frame, price had called for a sell, and it did reject off of the RSI line twice before falling. So that's pretty solid. I don't know if I would have necessarily taken this trade, but it did basically do what I look for in the trade before I try to get into it on arbitrage. So basically, the only way how I'm really looking for a buy on NZD USD will be if I get that breakout to the upside retest and then a continuation on RV. That's probably the only way that I'll look for a buy opportunity right now, which doesn't wouldn't it be best to wait for either one of those two to play out, then try to get in? That's how I feel. Other people might feel it differently. Like, nah, man, this is a triple bottom on the lower time frames. The possible buy is definitely here for sure. But again, I feel like this liquidity grab is just a moment away. And it's funny because price hasn't even necessarily touched that 71% Fibonacci level, which is right under that zone. So that's how I feel about NZD USD. Let's go on over here to USHEF. Weekly time frame actually. Let me get rid of this fib real quick. Most likely once I start doing markups, I'll know what it was there for. Alright, so last week candle is not appealing for any type of buy opportunities, rejecting off of that 50 EMA and showing a long wick like that. I'm not necessarily so crazy over USHEF. Daily time frame, I really wanted price to come up to 0.92234, which is what I'm pretty sure this Fibonacci was for. Yep, right over there, and make that push to the downside. And I never got that price. Came up a little. It came up a little bit, not even a little bit. Let's be real here. It probably came up to like 40% of this retracement before falling like that. And me seeing that off of this zone, and the way how I feel like the DXY can still go bullish, it's kind of interesting, and price is just really playing in this zone over here. I'm going to get rid of this trend line right here. And I'm going to leave that up there for now. On the lower time frames, this is kind of making me feel like, is this going to be a type of play? I don't like the way how it fell, first of all. But is this going to be a type of play where it's going to do this off of this zone? Which it kind of looks like that's exactly what it's doing. Where it's going to make that push, drop down to the 78.6 Fibonacci level. It rejected off of it nicely, but I would not have taken this. Quite honestly, it's just because of the time the market closed, and I don't look at the charts except for the cryptos until I do this analysis. And so price could have definitely made that move, and it's going to push to the upside before trying to make that push to the downside. I feel like that's how this market is going to end up playing out this week, rather than just trying to push to the downside. FOMC is a tricky mark. It's tricky. The USD usually sets itself up throughout the week so that when NFP does come, then it could just break loose, you know. So probably what I'm most likely going to be looking for on USHEF, I'm actually kind of intrigued by this play, is on the lower time frames. I'm going to be... Dang, it kind of already hit that 1-to-1 right there. I'm going to wait and see if price is going to come back down to like 0.91166 and see if I want to get into a potential buy. But that would probably be a personal play for me. I wouldn't call that unless I'm going to play this whole move, which then I'll see what happens. But overall, again, price potentially coming up to the likes of 0.92163 or 0.92374 definitely exist. Price overall is still just, you know, rejecting off of this zone. Has been rejecting between these lows and these highs since August, you know, so we'll see what goes on. I mean, August of 2021. So we'll see what goes on with USHEF. I'm going over to arbitrage. Over here on the weekly time frame, finally getting a bearish candle on here, so that's a good sign that we could possibly see a potential downward move on with USHEF, and that would help with the DXY bias for going bearish as well. But again, I want that bullish move first before it falls. Daily time frame, price has been bearish, and it's been we've been consolidating on the daily time frame, as we know. 4-hour time frame, price is calling for a sell. At this point, I would definitely need a retracement of some type before I would get into any type of sell. But I wouldn't even get into this on USHEF because it just looks a little too sloppy for me personally. And the 1-hour time frame, yeah, basically same thing, just a retracement back up to the RSI line and then a push to the downside. I feel like might be what's going on, but we'll see what goes on with USHEF for sure. I would rather see this play happen though, TBH, for a sell opportunity, although I don't think it will because of how price rejected off of that weekly 50 EMA. Like, again, let me delete this real quick. Me seeing price reject off of that like this is definitely not appealing to me, you know. So we'll see what goes on. Maybe price will get back up there again off of that zone, who knows, but price has already left basically, so I'm not gonna necessarily try to play it unless I see a good retracement, and on the lower time frame I see good rejections. So that's for you, Chef. We'll keep it on my eyes as well. USD Mexican pesos, I feel like this is not done. Oh wow. Alright, so price has been rejecting off of this 78.6 zone. If anybody would have taken a swing buy, although I never called any type of trade on that, but if you made that decision on your own, then you would be, you would be in profits right now, realistically speaking. I still feel like, and it's, again, I reiterate this with all the USD pairs, it's just funny to me how all these pairs are either at zones I want them to buy, or at zones I want them to reject off of, or they're very close to it, you know. So USD Mexican pesos, I've been saying, hey, until price tries to make its attempt up to 20.62363, I'm not necessarily going to be looking for trade opportunities off of this. And so prices has almost came up there, but not quite yet. So still gonna be patient on that. Not gonna really speak too much about USD Mexican pesos other than what I just said. You know, arbitrage. I've been not trying to trade this pair a little bit. You know, arbitrage called for a buy, rejecting off of that 4-hour 50 EMA. Daily time frame, been very bearish, rejecting off of here before making a small reversal. And the weekly time frame, prices is just rejecting off of the RSI line, and I don't necessarily want to play this right now. You get what I'm saying? So I'm gonna wait to see what price is gonna do over here at that 20.6200 level or area. But I don't necessarily have that much interest in USD Mexican pesos. All right, so gold. Before I talk about when I'm looking at long term, want to point out that this trade that I had called, I had talked about it on Friday, and I said that price I liked seeing where it's at, and where it dropped, it pushed down to TP2. It was a 1 to 1.8 drop, if I'm not mistaken, almost a 1 to 2 risk to reward, and definitely going to still be holding that. But now that I got that out the way, overall, weekly time frame on gold, I don't know why this Fibonacci moves like that, but okay. There we go. So price has, on the weekly time frame, price has rejected off of this weekly zone, the Fibonacci level 71%, 1841, like how I've been saying for, you know, past couple of weeks now. I wanted to see price get to, and I like the rejection that it made, the wick that it made also to the upside. I like it as well. It's just the candlestick is not necessarily showing that it wants to sell quite yet, right? Going on to the daily time frame, we also see that there is this bullish engulfing candle here. And I was saying last week, right, on my weekly analysis, that, hey, to me, this just looks like equal highs that price is going to end up going to hit before making a push to the downside. And from the looks of it, that's kind of what it does look like. We have this big candle that occurred on the daily time frame, but there wasn't big volume that backed that up, right? So I like the rejection that we're getting off of it. Again, that lower time frame trade that I had called, I'm still going to hold it, whether it hits stop loss at break even or whether it goes and hits all TPs. It's all good. But overall, on the 4-hour time frame, what I'm really looking at for the swing play is if price is going to drop, let it drop, make a retracement back up, and then continue pushing to the downside. That's what I'm really looking for with the swing play. I didn't necessarily want to try to get the swing up over here, because I know that the possibility of price dropping then coming back up to stop me out at break even before falling down again does exist. That's the reason why I just say, you know what, let's call this the lower time frame play first. And price is rejecting off of this zone that it was using before as resistance before it broke it, right? So this zone that I have drawn out, gonna delete it, and I want to see gold push to the downside and keep falling, right? I know that the possibility of it rejecting off of that zone that I just talked about exists, but again, I want to see this continue to fall. Currently, it's still under the 50 EMA on the 1-hour time frame. I do enjoy seeing that. And an area that I will be looking to see price reject that for it to make that move back to the upside before falling is going to be over here at, it's going to be over here at 1818, right? 1818 is where I'm going to be like, okay, is price going to reject over here to go bullish? I do know, yeah, there's a wick down here, and the bullish move really did start over here. So that 1821 where I had my thing originally, if I'll just go back to see 1821, that's where I had it originally. Like, yeah, I do know that this exists, but I'm also going to be looking for what price at 1818 is going to be talking about as well. So we're going to see what's up on gold. I have my alert set. I do want this to continue pushing to the downside, like I mentioned. And so it's going over to arbitrage. And again, before I even go on over to arbitrage, this is what I want to see on gold overall. If it gets down to 1818, push to the upside and then continue pushing to the downside. I would love that to happen for a potential long-term sell on gold. All right. Oh, arbitrage. Take a look at what RB talking about. Weekly time frame been consolidating like crazy. It is showing, yes, last week was showing for a buy, but I don't like the way how the weekly time frame looks on gold. Daily time frame on gold as well is bull. It looks like it's bullish, and price did reject off. Price did break out of this zone that I talked about. But again, I don't necessarily like the way how the bands look on the higher time frames. 4-hour time frame, price called for a buy right here. I would not have gone into a buy there. And you know, price can really reject off of here before going bullish as well. So not trying to make any plays on gold at this moment. 1-hour time frame is the only one that I like seeing this sell off of. But again, I'm not going to really try to play off of this right now. You know, even if price comes back up to 1840.250, I'd rather be like, you know what? You know, I took the sell. I was able to get some profits off of it. Now I want to see what the rest of gold is going to do. So that's how I feel about gold. I'm going to stay in the trade and let's see what things play out on it. But I would love for this to play out. The drop, retracement, the continuation. That would be A1 for me. All right, so let's look at the S&P. S&PU, if you ask me. No, I'm joking. All right, so, ooh, what do we have here on this bullish candle? All right, so, you know, let me go ahead and get rid of this play. That would have been a 1-to-1 last week. So, weekly time frame, huge bearish candle on the S&P. If we count how many points this bearish candle made and we go compare it to other candles, it's pretty huge, right? 283 points drop, which is a 6% decrease on the day or on the week for the S&P. This drop right here didn't even come close to that. This fall that happened to have a wick, it didn't even come close to that as well. You know, the last time we had drops like this that were this size were around times where COVID first happened, right? That's just like the most recent, if you will. So, but however, I do know from these lows of 4270 before price did make higher highs and all-time highs, and I had talked about this on Friday as well, that and the price coming up to the when it made these all-time highs, price rejecting off of this zone could be a possible area where price then stops there to make higher highs, right? That possibility does exist. A daily time frame, like buyers kicked in for sure the past couple hours. It's too early to tell because, like I said, the way how this fell, it dropped pretty hardcore, and there's big volume off of this candle that's down here. That's actually pretty interesting to me. That might be a buying sign in my opinion, that out of all of these candles, it's the one that when price came to the 78.6 that there's a lot of volume. All right, bet. Let's see what the 4 hour we're talking about. 4 hour before the market closed. Like these candles before the market closed, that's when there was big volume. Well, there's gonna be big volume on this. It's the opening bell candle. I'm gonna actually be looking for buy opportunities here. 1 hour time frame, still extremely bearish compared to last week, but if I get some, some lower time frame type of like Fibonacci levels, I might look for a buy on this. I'm gonna be paying attention to the S&P. I'm not so certain of why this candle's so bullish on the just as soon as the S&P opened on, you would consider this after hours because you can't necessarily trade this on the stock market, but still I'm going to be paying attention to the S&P because this can be definitely a potential play depending on how this looks on the 15-minute and the 5-minute time frame. The 5-minute, I like it. I would just need some type of retracement after this bullish move. So we'll see what happens on that. Lower time frames. Arbitrage, just to get this out the way on the 1 hour, I would want to see a bullish move, a retracement, and continuation for the buy. But let's go on over to the weekly time frame. This is the first time in a while on the S&P that prices came under the RSI line. Now, after a long candle like that, though, I want to see some type of retracement. No lie. So I'm going to be really taking a look at what the weekly time frame is going to look like at the end of the week for sure. 4 days and 21 hours. Bearish price had called for the sell over here on the 22nd. I would not have gotten that. I would not have gotten into that until I got the retracement because price was just consolidating up here for the longest time. 4-hour time frame. Called for the sell initially over here before it started to fall. Called for the buy, then said nope, get out. And I should have paid attention more to this than anything for me trying to buy it, but it is what it is. It's the risk that I took. And that's just, you just gotta, that's why you want to use proper risk management so that you would not end up having to lose a lot of money. So we'll see what the S&P brings us again. I'm gonna just draw it one more time. For arbitrage, I'd rather look for that. I know on the 15-minute time frame it's probably calling for a buy. Not even yet, but it's getting there. I'm going to be paying attention to the S&P tomorrow morning for sure. All right, Dow Jones. Take a look at the Dow Jones. Get rid of that. All right, so Dow Jones, kind of the same thing, right? Like realistically speaking, this is from the low where price had started the real bullish move to the upside. And price came way lower, and this is a really big bearish, like points wise. This is a huge loss on the US 30, but it's only 5% down, right? It's 1,815 points, but it's still pretty big, especially after making all-time highs. But as you can see, that's basically what the indices has been doing. It'll make a big drop before then starting to make it to the upside. So I'm still pretty optimistic of the buy opportunities, especially since on the weekly time frame price is still above the 50 EMA, right? And so me looking at 34,000, or not even 34,000, but this fib, I wanted to draw it out to these lows, right? And then take it up back like to the lows of 33,500 basically, and take it to the highs of 36,950. And it just so happens, that the fib, that's where the fibs are laying at. And so price rejecting off of the 78.6 is definitely a good look in my eyes, and it's going to probably be the same thing as with the as with the SPX 500, right? I'm going to be looking on the lower time frames how this fib setup is going to play out, and probably look for a buy opportunity maybe on the lower time frame. But we'll see what goes on. I'm not going to look too deep into it. That's just how I'm going to play it. I'm probably not going to try to play off this huge swing. Maybe not. I don't see a problem. Why not? If I have my swing count, So going to be paying attention to that. 15-minute time frame. Well, let me look at the 1 hour because that's what I would recommend. But this is what I would look for on S&P on the 1 hour. S&P Dow Jones on the 1 hour. And same thing with on the weekly time frame. We have not seen price underneath this RSI line in quite some time now. So me seeing that, I'm like, okay, I want to see the retracement back up there, but me seeing that it's finally like really broken through it with a big candle like that, it makes me skeptical to say, hey, is this going to continue pushing to the downside? And according to this, there's only been usually when it does call for a sell, except for this time right here, but then it ended up falling anyways. And with the setup that I play it, I would not have stopped out. Oh yes, I would have. Never mind. But you know what I'm saying? Like US 30, gonna definitely have to watch it to see if it's really gonna make this retracement and then start pushing to the downside. Marcus, we were even talking about in the DeFi domination group about interest rates hikes and stuff like that. So that's gonna probably that's probably what this all has to do with. I mean, this is probably what that drop that happened has to do with it. And waiting for just a retracement. I mean, not even waiting for a retracement, but this can just be a possible. The move to the downside could be making a possible move for a retracement before continuing to the downside. But I'm not gonna be. That's not what I'm talking about this week. I'm talking about price going bullish this week. So we'll see what goes on with US 30 for sure. Alright, let's talk about the cryptos. Let's talk a little bit about the cryptos. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and actually remove all drawings from Bitcoin right now, right? So taking a look at the weekly time frame, we see overall how bullish the crypto markets have been. Before 2021 before 2021, previous all-time high of Bitcoin was at 20,000 basically, right? Let me go ahead and basically 20,000. It was like 19,666 or something like that. And then price ended up making this move to the downside. It took months, years, basically, from 2017 all the way back up to November 20th before Bitcoin decided, okay, it's gonna more than 3 times that all-time high amount. And this came up to 65,000, fell down before coming back and making more all-time highs at $69,000, right? So this drop in the market, as much as yes, it is not liked, nobody likes it when the market falls like this, it's only healthy for the market. It's only healthy, right? And if we're being realistic with ourselves, just from the low of when this Bitcoin pump really started, from the lows of 4,200, of like basically 4,000, where back in March, that's when the bullish move really happened. The retracement really falls right back to the previous all-time high when you really use the Fibonacci, the Fibonacci levels, right? And so it really comes back down to where that previous high, all-time high back in 2017 was with Bitcoin. And we've seen, yes, Bitcoin has came back. If we're just looking from the price of, how low did this really go? It came 3,850. 3,850, and then this high was 69,000. Right, just off of that bullish move from 3,850 to $69,000, right? Price has come down and yes, hit that 61.8 Fibonacci level. So that making price move to the upside from the low of 3,850 to the high of 65,000. Price did not come back down and retrace back into this zone. Realistically speaking, it has not, and that's something that I really was, back when it had happened, I was like, dang, I don't like how that happened. That could be a potential sign of a bearish market. But then I got caught up in the bearish market and tried selling on leverage, like at 58,000, price continue making all-time highs. But looking from a weekly point of view on how this is dropping compared to how it dropped the other time, it's not as fast, but it is pretty bearish. And the likelihood, again, of price still coming within that range of 17,416 and 28,000, 30,000 even, it's not 30,000. It does definitely exist. This is the move from back in March of 2020 all the way to the high of November 2021. So price, we still have yet to see that retracement, realistically speaking, right? And even again, when it was from 33,850 to 64,000, price never still came down to that retracement level, which, for instance, or a lot of people, for instance, who trade that way would be like, okay, this is a prime area where buys would be looking to take place. So, I'm still always observant of that, and that's something that I wanted to make sure that, you want to pay attention to stuff like that. Because even if this falls a little more, you can be like, all right, well, the retracement back down, it could be expected. Because if you go back and look at the retracement, the fall that happened over here with Bitcoin, I'm just going to take it from these lows of like $111 to the highs of 19,000. You can see, look where price really came back and retraced back down to. It came even a little lower to 3,130, and even came one more time to 4,000 before making that bullish move. The bullish move up to 31,000, I wasn't really necessarily surprised about it. Not gonna lie to anybody. Now, the move up to 60,000, that blew my mind. That blew my mind, because that was double of what I was expecting Bitcoin to do. And I have plenty full of videos where I've talked about this move in the past, and so I'm still saying that, this possibility of price coming back down to at least getting back to where the previous all-time highs were, that is a possibility. Now, as of right now, with what we're looking at in the market, on the daily time frame, price has from the low, from this bullish move that price had made, where it made a higher high, from the low of 28,734 to the high of 69,000, basically, price has fallen beneath this Fibonacci zone where I usually look for buy opportunities. So right now, buys are not necessarily favorable for me, and I feel like if price does break below 28,005, if price does break below 30,000, basically, that yes, there may be a push to the downside, even lower to the likes of 17k, like 17k, 20k. There's even a possibility of 10k getting hit, for all I know. But these zones that I have marked off, as an investor, if I'm investing into Bitcoin, these are zones where I'm dollar cost averaging at, right? These are zones where I'm dollar cost averaging, and I'm saying, hey, let's say, for example, off of this move right here. All right, I'm not, like, for me personally, I wasn't crazy over trying to buy Bitcoin anything over $40,000, because for my money to have to double, price would have to go to $80,000, which I don't doubt it will happen, but I wasn't willing to risk that. Versus when price came into the 37,000, that's when I'm like, I'm interested. You got me. My interest is piqued. And now that price is at 36,000, all I would need is for price to go up to 70,000 for my Bitcoin investment to double. However, me knowing and me having the skill set of being able to look at the charts and seeing that the likelihood of 19,718 still does exist, I'm not going to go ahead and throw a whole bag at $35,000 for me to get into Bitcoin. Because again, any prices over $40,000, I personally would not buy Bitcoin. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. But anything under that, I'm interested. So these are great prices for me to buy at. But if I'm gonna buy it, and let's just say that for just Bitcoin, if I have like $5,000 to buy just Bitcoin. I'm not talking about diversifying your portfolio, which is what I really encourage. But if I'm just have $5,000 for Bitcoin by itself, at these prices right here, I'm probably gonna put $1,000. I'm probably going to put $1,000 and say like, okay, this is a good place to dollar cost average. Because now, if price does go bullish, hey, I can make some money off of these prices. But if price does come down and break down into the likes of 25,000, I'm going to go and put 2,000 in, right? If price comes down to the likes of 19,000, I'm going to go ahead and put another 2,000 in. And again, I still know that, again, from being a chart analysis and stuff like that, this is why learning how to trade helps you, because you learn how to use technical analysis and stuff like that. But with me having that knowledge, even if price does eventually come back down to the likes of 13,000 or 10,000, which I feel like it can still do, dollar cost averaging will be able to get me in, so that once price ultimately makes that move to the moon, because I know what's going to happen eventually, like we're nowhere near the top of Bitcoin, I'm going to be able to benefit I'm going to be able to benefit off of that on multiple levels. So yeah, I know I talked about that a little bit too long, but that's just how I really feel about these markets. Like, although yes, these are good prices and there's a lot of fear in the market, that's what the market wants there to be. There wants there to be fear, so that people are are liquidating their Bitcoin and stuff like that. That's still it might be a good place to buy. Now, however, looking at an arbitrage indicator, that thing is way under the RSI line, and it's even under the mean line on the weekly time frame. I'm not necessarily so crazy over trying to get into buys with me seeing that. That's a scary sight for me. Daily time frame, when I'm looking at how bearish it is, and I was like, hey, this is what I want to see to get into long-term buys, and not getting that, price can still definitely come over here to the third deviation at 28,000. So me with the indicator on a long-term wise, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to buy this yet. Same thing, 4-hour time frame, still very much bearish. The only time frame that's kind of giving me some type of hope for a bullish run right now is the 1 hour, and even that, the 1 hour level pro is looking like it's about to come under, and the arbitrage Z is already below ground zero. So I'm not necessarily really crazy over trying. Why is this green? I'm not really crazy over trying to buy these right now. Like, there still is a possible bottom to occur, and again, dollar cost averaging would be where I would be at on these cryptos right now. I would not be looking for any type of leverage plays at this point. Like, for me right now, I'll probably, maybe if I see price making the bullish move and I see a possible sell entry, then yeah. Same thing with Ethereum. It's at a very interesting zone where dollar cost averaging at these prices would be very great, because price going back up to 5,000, and right now we're at 2,500. You would just need price to go up to 5,000, then you 2x your investment if you're dollar cost averaging at these prices. However, again, just the same thing off of what I was saying with Bitcoin. The possible from these lows back in March 2020 of $77 to the highs of 4,872. Price still has that possibility of coming into 1,103. Now, Ethereum, on the other hand of Bitcoin, did happen from this move to up over here at 4,381. It did happen to hit the 61.8 Fibonacci level right here, right? And it gave traders three opportunities, Wyckoff status, to be able to get into a buy for price to then make an all-time high, which that played out very nicely. But again, I still do know the likelihood and the possibility of price coming back down into the likes of $1,000. It does exist, and when those, and again, if I'm dollar cost averaging anywhere inside this zone to anywhere inside this zone, I know that overall in the long term, 7,800 is gonna be not something that is least unlikely. It's gonna happen, because again, this crypto market, we're still in the baby phase of it. And if I go and look at over here from the previous all-time high that Ethereum had made, up over here at 1,353, you know, from that high to these lows down here, it's the same thing, right? We see that price did make a steep retracement. Price came back up, it came into the zone, and it came even lower than that zone, scaring out a lot of people for a long time before ultimately outperforming even Bitcoin in this bull run, coming all the way up to 4,800. The first time it came up to 4,300. So that's why I'm saying, like, things in the market repeat itself. And if this is going to be, in fact, the start of a bear run, if you really want to call it that, like, can you really call it a bear run if it's been doing nothing but outperforming multiple assets in the real world? You know, because this is digital currency, but these are places where dollar cost averaging is great, but throwing your whole bag into it is not a great idea. So right now, I'm personally waiting on these cryptos for any type of trade opportunities. You know, I'm seeing more sell opportunities than buy opportunities, if anything, but these are not places where I want to buy them at or sell them at, I mean. So Ethereum 1 hour time frame is the only one that looks good, but other than that, everything else is bearish. You know, even the weekly time frame, when I'm looking at it, price is way underneath that RSI line, and it has been underneath it for a couple weeks now. You know, it's been under it since January 3rd. You know, that should have been a sign to say, hey, don't look for buy opportunities like that. I was able to capitalize off of something a little bit, but it wasn't put into full fruition, right? Daily time frame, again, every other time frame other than the small time frames, like the hour, the 30-minute might be even calling for a sell. Yep, it is. I wouldn't have gone into that, but still, you know, these cryptos, they are definitely not necessarily looking good for buys at this point in time. Same thing with XRP. You know, you have this bullish move right here from the lows of back here. Well, even looking back in December 2020, because I feel like XRP really underperformed. But right now, it's at very good swing levels for dollar cost averaging. You know, I started personally dollar cost averaging Ripple when it was like around 45 cents. And then I even was able to get some at 13 cents before it went bullish and stuff like that. So you get what I'm saying? Like, dollar cost averaging is what's going to be beneficial for you in the long-term run when it comes to these plays, rather than trying to get into any leverage plays at this point in time. Because yes, right now is still an area where these cryptos can go bullish at, and they're beautiful places again to dollar cost average at, but trading them leverage, you might want to be careful with that. All right, already talked about GPUSD. Let's talk about GPAUD. This thing has been playing games, right? And GPAUD has been playing games inside this zone where I said, hey, from this high to this low, the retracement back up into the zone, I want to see if it's going to possibly sell. I had taken a trade opportunity on short-term wise. I'm thinking about taking this swing at this point in time, right? At this point, I'm thinking, hey, if price is really going to hold here, maybe into getting another swing is a good idea. However, only thing I don't really care about this swing is the way how the daily time frame looks like. Or not the daily, but the weekly time frame, right? These wicks that's pointing to the downside, it looks like tweezer bottoms. I don't necessarily care for that. You know, so I'm gonna really wait and see what GA is gonna do. I think it already has done that retracement. No, it hasn't. I want to see what. Oh, yes, it has. Oh, wow, and it hit 1-to-1. Yeah, I gotta at this point, if I'm gonna take the swing trade, it has to be now, and I'm not gonna. Let me see what AUD USD looks like again. We can still go a little lower, but it's a good zone to sell it at, to buy it at overall. GA, I feel like I'm gonna get into a swing sell on it. Let me see what this is looking like. Damn, that's still my target right there. A 1 to 3, 316 pips. I'm not crazy over the weekly. That's my only issue at this point in time. But I do like that it's still rejecting off of this zone very nicely like this, you know. Yeah, let's do it. You know, why not? I'm gonna take this for a swing. Why not? See how long it's gonna take. If I start to see that price is breaking above 1.900, that's when most likely I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm getting out the trade early, and so instead of losing a full 1% of my account, I'll lose 0.3%. You know what I'm saying? So, but I definitely am gonna take this for a swing. Let's see what this plays out to. This is a long play. I'm not gonna lie to anybody, this is a long-term play. I'm not even so certain if on the DeFi app that I'm gonna be tracking this there, because it's just it's a very long-term play. But overall, I like this GA setup. Risking 316 pips. Let me find where the 1-to-1 is at. Right there. Dang, and then it'll take a minute for price to get there too. Then TP2, TP3, TP4, and then final TP5 would be right there at that 61.8. So yeah, this is what I'm looking at for GA long-term wise. And again, if I start to see price breaking above 1.900, that's when I'm going to be like, all right, I'm out the trade. But I do like the opportunity here for a swing. And this, I can't say this enough, it'll be a long-term play. Let me take a look at what arbitrage is talking about on the weekly. Dang, it's overextended above here, huh? Damn. Let's see, daily time frame. I like the rejections off of that second deviation. 4 hour, what you got for me. 4 hour, I like the bears, and it's under the RSI line. It's consolidating, so I'm not really too crazy over it, but I do like the sell on it. And the 1 hour time frame is calling for buy. So right now, not necessarily the best time to try to sell GA looking at arbitrage, but I'm taking this for a swing. And again, probably take a look. I'm probably going to take a look back at this on like in the middle of the week, towards ending of the week. But yeah, I will definitely like this play, and I will be tracking it on the app overall. And it's a swing, so you know, me trying to trade in between the swing and trying to get like, oh, I'm gonna hedge it, and what hedging means is like, oh, while you're selling it, you're also buying it at the same time. That's definitely something I'll be looking forward to do as well. So that's what GA, big time swing, but I like the sell. And GBP JPY. So GJ, man, so I had said GJ last week. I said, hey, GJ right now, I was saying last week that I wanted it to make the push to the downside, retrace, and then continue to the downside. It did a little bit of it, but it didn't retrace enough for me to trade it. And so it did make that push to the downside. Right now, what I want to see is, okay, if I'm going to continue selling GJ, I want to see it reject off of this zone, and I'll sell it up here at 1.56.669. That's what I was saying overall on GJ that I would do. You know, because overall on the higher time frames, this looks extremely bullish. Let me hide that. Weekly time frame, it looks extremely bullish, but if price is going to keep rejecting off of this zone, like how it did on this last week, I love seeing that weekly candle. If GJ continues just falling like how it is, I won't be even mad. Honestly speaking, I would not be mad because this is just extremely bullish already. But I do know for sure that the possibility of price retracing back up into 156.669 does exist. And so I'm going to be watching for that on GJ. This zone that it's rejecting off of is pretty nice. I like the price action that we're seeing. A bullish engulfing candle. I would want to see if a retracement occurs, how I would react to a buy opportunity. But for now, I'm definitely going to just be keeping my eye on GJ. Don't really have much to say about it. Other than that, daily time frame. Oops. Price just rejecting off of that RSI line, so I would only expect a retracement to the upside after the fall. 4-hour time frame very much bearish, and 1-hour time frame at this point, the only way how I would get into the buy via arbitrage is if I get the breakout, retracement, and the continuation type of play. So that's for GJ, and I'm not really gonna talk too much about EG other than, hey, I got the little breakout, but I don't like how price is still under the zone, so I still want to see price come up to 0.84200, retrace down, and then I'll look for buy opportunities. And that's the only play that I'd really play on EG. So there's not much I'm going to talk about when it comes to EG, except I want to see that. So with that being said, is there any other pairs that anybody wants me to look at? This was a long analysis, I know, but I like doing these long analysis because I only got to do them once or twice out of the week, and then for the rest of the week I know I'm going to be playing off of. All right. Let me make sure on YouTube there's nobody that has any questions. Don't think so. Well, if that's the case, thank y'all for hopping on. Let's see what these markets are gonna do. This is very exciting. Quite honestly, I'm really excited to see what these markets are gonna do. S&P, I'm watching you guys. GU, I'm watching it. GA, I'm getting into this sell. And GJ, I'm also, I don't know why this is green, but I'm watching it. All right, no problem. So have a good night, and let's make some money this week, y'all.
Recording stopped.